Hi there, so my name's Emily from the Retail Trust. I'm just going to briefly talk through, as a charity, our relationship with BrightHouse and all the wellbeing services we can offer you. Now, as a charity, we're the only charity in the UK that supports the retail industry specifically. We've been going since 1832, but all that means is that we've seen everything the industry's faced, and we've added to and developed our services to make sure that everything we offer can match the needs that have arisen. Now, there's three key things to remember about us as a charity. The first one is that we are 100% confidential. So if anyone reaches out to us, we don't feed back to managers or HR about any individual or any specific situation. The second key point is that we're 100% free for staff to use. So if you do reach out to us, it's never going to cost you a penny. And the third point is that we're not just available to BrightHouse staff, but anyone you live with who's over the age of 18 can access all of our services completely free and confidentially as well. Now, as a charity, we are called the Retail Trust, but we're broken up into three different brands. You have access to all three of the brands, but they cover a different area of the industry and they all have a slightly different name. So we've got our Cottage Homes, which is our retirement housing, Retail Hub, which is our wellbeing platform, and Retail Right, which is our educational and vocational development, with Retail Trust being obviously the umbrella charity name. Now, I'm going to explain the process of what happens when you get in touch with us, but also how you can get in touch with us. So there's 4 ways you can reach out to us. We've got our free phone number, which is active 24/7. So any time of day, any day of the week, there'll be someone for you to talk to, and the contact details are all on our materials. We've got our text and email. Now, with this, there's up to a 48-hour response time. So if it is anything urgent, I would encourage you to call up. But if it is just a general inquiry or something that doesn't need an immediate response, please do feel free to text or email us. And then finally, obviously, we've got our website for all the kind of digital avenues and support. Now, when you reach out to us, the first people you'll speak to is our Hub team. So Hub stands for Help, Understanding and Backup. These guys aren't the trained counsellors or legal advisors. Their job is to first of all obtain all your relevant information, purely for our records, so that if you've called up previously, we can pull up the record, alternatively create a new one, so if you ever call up again, we have all your information saved. Following on from that, they'll then obviously talk to you about your current situation, ask you what support you potentially are looking for, and advise on how we could best support with that, putting you in touch with the best department for your specific needs. Now, I'm briefly going to touch on how you can identify individuals who are potentially experiencing extreme emotional distress, and at what point that becomes a cause for concern. Now, if someone's experiencing extreme emotional distress, they will show symptoms across all three of these areas. Now, behavioural shows up first. Because we're humans, we act on instinct. You never slam a door because you think I'm stressed and I want people to know. You do it on instinct. So that's why behavioural shows up first. That then tends to seep into our emotions, which can make us quite upset or frustrated, which can then cause us to be snappy and things like that. So that's why emotional comes up second. And then physical will show up last, purely because everything else then has an impact on how well we're sleeping, how well we're eating, which can affect how well we put together and our appearance and things like that. Now, it isn't unfortunately a black and white tick box. If people show X, Y, and Z symptoms, they're experiencing emotional distress. What you need to look at is what's normal for this individual, what is their normal behavioural patterns, their normal emotional responses, and are these changing over a period of time? And is this becoming consistent or more severe over a period of 3 weeks or more? So anything under 3 weeks, they might just be having a bad day or a bad week. It's not necessarily a cause for concern, although I would still keep an eye on it. But once it gets to a period of 3 weeks or more, that's the point when it becomes a cause for concern, and you really need to, potentially actively speak to them and see if they are struggling with anything and if they can get any support from you or from us. Right, so in regards to the support we offer from the Hub specifically, we do emotional support through counselling. Now, our counselling is referred to as short-term counselling, which means we offer up to a maximum of 6 sessions. Most issues can be resolved within this time, but if it is something that needs much more long-term and specific support for over a period of potentially months or even years, they would need to speak to a specialist trained in that area. Now, if for any reason we can't directly support, and this goes for everything, not just the counselling, we will signpost them to another company or organisation that can provide them with the support they need. Worst case scenario with emotional support, that might be through the NHS, but we will still advise and guide them on that process, how to apply for it and things like that. So what will happen is when you reach out for counselling, you'll have an on-the-phone assessment with the counsellor, where they'll talk through all of your needs, all of your issues, and based on that conversation, make a decision on whether the type of counselling we offer is going to be suitable for you or not. And if it's not, signpost you in the direction where you can get that support. However, if they say, yes, I think our counselling is suitable for you, there's two ways you can do the counselling. You can either do it over the phone or face-to-face. Telephone counselling can start straight away. Face-to-face, you can get your first face-to-face appointment with a counsellor within a week of that decision being made. So a really quick turnaround. And on top of that, we'll keep travel distance within half an hour, so you're not going to have to travel really far to meet the counsellor. Now, we don't just do counselling for individuals, but we can also do couples counselling. And we also offer something called cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, which is just a different type of counselling. But again, the clinician will recommend the best course of action based on your specific needs. We also offer free legal guidance. So we can provide free legal guidance for any UK legal issue at all, except employment law and immigration law. Again, we will signpost for both of those, but otherwise anything else, consumer law issues, issues with landlords, going through a divorce, discrepancies in wills, things like that. We also do financial guidance and debt support. So financial guidance is looking at money management and budgeting. So they'll sit down with you and go through all your ingoings and your outgoings, where you can cut back and where you can save some money. You can use this for anything if you just want to save for a holiday, for Christmas, whatever it may be. But when we really encourage people to actively use this resource is if their pay is going to decrease. So whether they're going from full-time to part-time or having their hours reduced, alternatively going off on sick leave or even potentially maternity leave. So that way we can help them before they go off to manage that financial situation moving forward. We also offer debt support. So debt support, we can help negotiate debt repayments on an individual's behalf. We deal with disputes and creditors to help make those repayments much more effectively and efficiently. And we can potentially even speak to housing benefits on people's behalf if they are homeless or looking at being made evicted or anything like that. Now, if it's at the point where you need more than just advice and guidance, we also offer what we call our hardship grants. Now, these are non-repayable bursaries, so they're not a loan, you never pay the money back. But to be eligible for apply, you have to work for a company that's classified as a retailer for at least 3 months, and you do have to be in financial straits. So we will check your bank statements and things like that to make sure that you obviously genuinely can't afford to pay for it yourself. Now, we have 4 different types of grants. So we've got our physical grants, which are generally larger amounts over a longer period of time. They cover things like disability support, whether that's hoistry equipment, wheelchair accessibility, wet rooms, things like that. Long-term medical conditions. So we've recently helped someone support their child who are having to go through cancer treatment to help pay for medical bills, or any other medical condition if you're having a lot of outgoing bills and struggling to pay for them. Also things like home repairs. So if your roof collapses or there's a flood and insurance won't touch it and you can't afford to pay to fix it, we could potentially help you pay for that as well. The second grant is financial grants. So this covers things like homelessness, the basic essentials for your family, like if your fridge freezer or your boiler breaks and you can't afford to fix it, we could potentially buy your fridge freezer and have it delivered. Priority bills like rent arrears, gas and electric bills, things like that. And then emotional grants is there to obviously support you kind of emotionally and financially. So this is things like fleeing domestic violence, funeral expenses. So if you have someone pass away and you're responsible for the funeral costs, we can help you pay for that. Alternatively, if a BrightHouse staff member passes away, we could potentially help their family pay for the funeral costs as well. It also includes things like food vouchers to help pay for food for the month, and to help you for travel if you have a dependent or a child in hospital and you're unable to afford the travel to visit them. Finally, our last grant is educational and vocational grants. So these are a bit different. You can only apply for this grant once, but it's there to help you with your career development. So if you want to do another course or qualification to help you with that development, but you can't afford to pay for that course, we could help fund a percentage of that cost. Now, to apply for all of these, you just go onto our website and there's an online application form. It's got all the criteria for all the different topics on there, and you can work through it kind of in your own time, in your own space. Now, we also do something called critical incident support. So this is if anything traumatic happens in the workplace, be that a death of a colleague, an armed robbery, a road accident that staff witness or are involved with, a terror scare at a local tube station, anything like that, we can send a trauma specialist into the affected site. They'll speak to everyone that was involved, identify people that might need further support. They're all bespoke as well, so based on the incident, they'll explain the behavioural, physical and emotional responses people might feel, the time frame these might come up in, and they'll give them coping mechanisms to deal with all of those as well. On top of that, they'll also train the managers on how to support the team moving forward. Now, to access the critical incident support line, you call our standard helpline because it's 24/7, explain that you're trying to access critical incident support for a team, and we'll have a trauma specialist reach out to you. We could potentially have someone on site within 24 hours, but the trauma specialist will recommend the best response time based on the incident. So that pretty much sums up all of the Wellbeing platform, which is the hub. Our other brand is Retail Right. So Retail Right does a lot of business support around recruitment and employment training and things like that. But the things that benefit staff is that we offer coaching and mentoring services. So we could partner you up with a senior leadership person in another but similar organisation who can give you a bit of advice and guidance and coaching around your professional development moving forward. We also run employment law workshops in partnerships with Squire Patton Boggs for anyone that deals with employment law. All of these, the application forms and the booking systems are all on our website as well. Now finally, our last brand is Cottage Homes. So Cottage Homes is our retirement housing. Now once you've worked in the retail industry for at least 5 years, your parents, grandparents or even your in-laws could potentially be eligible to live in our estates. And then obviously when you got to retirement age, you would be eligible as well. We've put a lot of focus into our retirement estates to really drive down levels of isolation, which tend to be quite high across most retirement housing. So what we've done, all of our sites have an on-site IT suite, a hairdresser's, a restaurant, a shop that's run by the residents, and we also run daily entertainment to keep all the residents engaged with each other. We also put funding into the estates to take residents on days out together and throw them parties throughout the year. We have 5 estates across the UK. We're in London, Derby, Liverpool, Salford and Glasgow. If anyone's interested in any of the sites, you can go on our website, call up the site directly, and they could arrange for you to have a visit and go down and see it and have a bit of a tour. Right, so that sums up all 3 of the brands. I'm briefly going to talk through 2 examples of individuals we've supported, and they were both in situations where they felt we couldn't support them. So the first one, unfortunately, her mum became terminally ill. So this individual left her job to become her mum's full-time carer. She'd worked in the industry for about 6 years, and when she left her job, she wasn't aware that she could claim carer's allowance from the government. So she had all her outgoings, but no income. So the debt started piling up pretty quickly. She couldn't afford to look after her mum effectively, she couldn't afford the right equipment, so she was manually having to lift her in and out of bed and things like that, which unfortunately meant she ended up with chronic back pains. Now with the debt and the pain, the debt got so bad that she ended up having to go bankrupt. But unfortunately, she couldn't even afford to pay to go through the bankruptcy process. So with the stress of all of these things, she also ended up with quite severe depression. So she reached out to Citizens Advice Bureau, and they said, "We're really sorry, we can't help you. All we can do is recommend that you reach out to as many charities as you can." So out of the 14 charities she reached out to, we were the only ones to support her. So what we did was we paid for her to go through the bankruptcy process. We gave her guidance on how to claim carer's allowance. We gave her financial planning on how to manage that carer's allowance moving forward. We helped her get the right equipment to look after her mum effectively. And then we also gave her counselling for the depression as well. Now in this situation, if you've worked in the industry for at least 3 years and you leave for a valid reason like this one, or God forbid ever get made redundant, you can access all of our services for up to 2 years after leaving. The second situation is slightly similar. So she left work for 6 months. She was off sick with depression. Now, she didn't know who we were. When she went off on sick leave, it was at that point that her HR team said, if you're struggling, call the Retail Trust. She originally didn't reach out to us because she felt like that there were people out there that needed it more than she did, and she was concerned that if she used the services, it would stop someone else who needed it more not being able to access it, which of course isn't the case. We're there to support everyone. So unfortunately she didn't reach out, but her sick pay didn't cover all her outgoings. So the bills started piling up and the debt quite quickly, which obviously was adding to her stress, which meant she couldn't focus on recovering herself. She did try to go back to work, but unfortunately work said, you're not well enough to be back, so they sent her back off sick again. It was only at that point that she finally reached out to us. So we paid off 1 month's rent arrears, we paid off her gas and electric bill, we gave her financial planning to manage her sick pay moving forward, and we also gave her counselling for the depression as well. Now, with both of these issues, we could have supported them a lot earlier. So for example, with the first one, if she'd reached out when she knew she was going to be leaving work to become her mum's full-time carer, we could have explained how to claim carer's allowance, we could have helped her financially manage it, we could have put in place the support she needed at that point, which meant she potentially would have never gone bankrupt, she wouldn't have got chronic back pain, and she may never have even had depression. Same with the second situation, if this individual had reached out when she first started struggling, it may not have got to the point where she had to go off sick in the first place, which would have then obviously avoided all the financial issues as well. So we want to get to the point where everyone knows who we are and what we offer, so that they can take their own initiative to access it as and when these issues might arise. Now, in order to do that, we provide lots of marketing materials for free to help you promote our services. Now, we offer these little wallet cards. These are for everyone. They're the best to go in your wallet, purse, drawer, whatever it might be. Inside is a bullet point of all our information, and then on the back is all our contact details. We also have a booklet, a guide to our services. So again, same concept, it just goes into a little bit more information about our services. It's got 2 examples of people we've supported in the past, and then again, all our contact details on the back. We then have 3 guides. So we have a manager's guide for dealing with a critical incident. So this talks about things to do and not do following an incident, understanding the different behavioural responses that might appear in the time frame of those and things like that. And then again, all our contact details and how to access it. We have another guide around our counselling services. So this talks about the type of counselling we offer, when it potentially can and can't help, and then how you can access it, whether it's over the phone or face-to-face and things like that. Finally, we also have a guide to stress and how to build resilience against stress. So this talks about what stress is, the common causes of stress, then it also talks about the top tips of dealing with it and how to build resilience against it in the future and moving forward. And again, it's got all our contact details on the front should you need to access further support. Finally, we also have our standard posters. The best place of these are back of toilet doors and notice boards. That's just a very brief overview of all the services we provide, and again, all our contact details. So that pretty much sums up everything. So all I'd ask of you now is that you kind of go and share this information with your teams and your colleagues, and make sure that everyone is aware of what we offer. So should they ever need support, they can take that initiative to reach out, as opposed to having to wait for HR or managers to intervene. Thank you.